Well, hi there, everyone. My name is David McLeod, and I am your life mastery coach and author of the wonderful little book, A Life to Die For. I'm also one of the co-authors in the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. This is episode 219, and today our topic is empowered decision. Now, imagine having access to a source of truth and wisdom that could lead you unerringly in the right direction for your life. Imagine being able to tap into this amazing source anytime you wanted to, knowing that it would always have the answers you need. Further, imagine releasing doubts and second thoughts about choices because of your connection to this magical power that creates certainty about who you are and why you are here. Sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? But I'll tell you, it's not a fairy tale. Everybody already has access to this tool. It's called intuition. And sadly, most people don't really take advantage of the incredible power of their intuition, the amazing communication channel that exists between the spiritual and the physical realms. Many of us understand and accept the existence of the soul by whatever name we might know it. And in my understanding, the soul is the mechanism that allows us to receive answers from the true source of all knowledge and wisdom. And intuition is the name that we give to the form of communication that comes to us through our soul. So for this episode of Life Mastery TV, I've invited a real expert on the subject of intuition. My guest is the founder of Sacred Haven Living, where she practices her core values of community, connection, and collaboration. Her overall purpose is to help women break lifelong patterns of how they show up in life so that they learn to understand the relationship to themselves, to others, to money, and to spirit. So please join me in welcoming the Decision Queen, and also one of my fellow senior partners at the Wellness Universe, the lovely and delightful Carolyn McGee. Welcome, Carolyn. I'm glad we're finally able to get on this program together. Oh, are you there? She comes. All right. And you just need to,
there we go. You would think all the times I have taught on this platform that I would be able to manipulate the buttons correctly. But anyway, I am so thrilled to be here, David. I've been excited about this for a long time.
Yes, I know. And well, you and I have gotten to know each other fairly well over the last couple of years. My only disappointment is I've never gotten to meet you in person. And I'm hoping that will happen someday soon. So
yes.
Maybe one of the Soul Treat events or something that will happen, and maybe we'll get to go there. But what I wanted to ask you, Carolyn, for the benefit of our listeners and the people watching the recording, you're obviously interested in intuition and how it relates to our lives. So I'm curious if you could share with us a little bit about your personal journey that led you onto a path of recognizing the importance of intuition.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So as a child, my dad was an alcoholic and frequently absent. My mom, was kind of like a single mom, but dealing with an absent husband. So there was a lot of friction. She did the best she could in that moment, but it was, very tightly held, conform, follow the rules, because there was no time for being fanciful. I was the kid who talked to the fairies, who talked to the flowers, who talked to the animals. And it was distracting, I think, for my mom is probably the best way to describe it. So I was confined, not validated. It was never acknowledged that there was an issue with my dad. So my intuition, that feeling inside I had as a kid, was told I was wrong.
Mm.
At 10 years old, I almost drowned at my grandparents' house.
Oh, wow.
And I was blamed for going in the water even though I had permission. I'm kind of choking up. It was a really big thing for me. And I completely stopped trusting myself because I had permission, yet I was blamed. I wasn't nurtured and, encouraged. I was yelled at. I just shut down completely. And so I went on through life for probably about another 15 years, kind of in that logical, what's next, fit in, follow the rules, what does everybody else think stuff. And I didn't follow my heart's desire. I didn't follow my intuition. I didn't follow that gut feeling that we all have. And I forgot everything about my childhood. And it wasn't until I was married to somebody who was emotionally abusive and trying to get out to protect my children that I remembered who I was. I started that journey and I did it for my kids. And, I think a lot of clients, a lot of people who are in that situation, they're motivated either by their pets to protect them, or they're motivated by, a family member that they're protecting, a child or someone else who's more defenseless. And that gives them the strength to step into their own power.
Right, right. Your story reminds me so much of, I don't know how many times I've heard stories like that from other people. And no, they don't all have the same outcome. They don't all have the same result. But how many times do we hear about people who may have been abused by parents who are actually very well-meaning, who believed in their heart that they were doing the right thing for the kid, but the kid takes on internal messages like you were saying, like something's wrong with me, I'm broken, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that. And all of that is complete hogwash, because the truth of the matter is we're all amazing, empowered, and beautiful beings. We just take on these messages that kind of get absorbed by our ego mind, and then our ego mind kind of takes over for the next part of our life, supposedly trying to keep us safe from those things happening again.
Right.
And yet we just go through this experience, and most of us have no clue that that's what's happening until we get into our 40s or 50s, or in some cases later than that, and realize, this isn't working, and I have to reconnect. Right. I have to reconnect to that truth of who I really am. And that is going to take a different form for every single person on the planet. But it's all part of the same objective, I think, for all of us to know the truth of who we really are.
Yeah.
So, and now you're on a mission to help people become more connected to their intuition and their spiritual nature.
Yes, I am. And, I, like you, I teach on this platform for the Wellness Universe. And I teach about what I call living inspired, or inspired living. And it's all about following our intuition, because in my case, my intuition is my superpower. It's, there's the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Right.
You have something that you struggle with, that you lost along the way, and you rediscover it and then step into that enlightenment, that power, so that then you can then go into leading. And each of us have that. And like I said, for me, it's my intuition, because I lost it and I gained it. And now I teach about it. And it's more than teaching for me. I believe I'm a mentor, I'm a guide. I model for other people what it's like to make the decisions on a sometimes moment by moment basis, using my intuition versus using my logic. And I don't want to downplay logic. Those 20 years that I wasn't really following my intuition, I was working in engineering management. I've got a degree in logic. So it's very beneficial, but it's the discernment of what energy you want to live in that's the power.
Right, right. Yeah, it's very, very true. I think there's nothing wrong with linear, logical, scientific thinking at all. But when we do that to the exclusion of our spiritual nature, of the non-linear, the inspirational, the creative kind of aspects, then we really lose out on a big part of who we really are. And so I think it's important for us to help people understand that, to bring those two parts together as a whole, rather than just living in one side of the brain or the other side of the brain, can really help to create a beautiful and integrated life. And so that's really, really important. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. And in the introduction, you talked about intuition and the soul. And, I my own intuition and connection with my angels and guides says that my soul is connected to my heart, and my heart is where my intuition lies, and my heart is the most intuitive muscle, and actually it works that way for everybody. Your
Sure.
heart is your most intuitive muscle. It will always tell you the truth, and that's one of the things I promised was a way to test the truth, and it's through your heart. And if you are following your heart, which is in the center of your body, the center of your embodied chakras, then you're always going to choose what your soul, your heart wants you to do. And
Right.
if you think about your heart, you're also left and right. So you've got the divine masculine, divine feminine aspects, which meld in through our hearts. So there's
Right.
so much power. And, I do love the word discernment. I'm probably going to say it a few more times here today.
It's a good
To
word.
yeah, to filter what your truth is. And I think for me, David, one of the things that was so powerful was understanding that my ex-husband wasn't wrong. He was living his life and his path. It wasn't healthy for me. And I wasn't living my path because I was trying to accommodate him. So to
Mm.
move out of that energy into me being me, not trying to change him into something else, that allowed both of us to follow our life purpose, our life's path.
Right.
And that's being healthy. That's being that mature, stepping into your own superpower energy.
Right. It's really fascinating, all of this discussion. I think, you talk about discernment and using that kind of that filter system to decide, what's true and what's not true and so forth. Uh, and I think that one thing that people have to be careful of is that we have an ego mind that uses discernment, and it will co-opt that word and saying, I'm just being discerning, and I'm discerning that you need to take care of yourself. So you got to be careful where the source of that discernment is coming
Mhm.
from. If it
Yes.
is coming from your ego mind, and it may not be obvious at first until you've done some work on this, then it's probably going to be fear-based. Whereas if it's coming from your heart, it's going to be love-based. And there's a real difference in energy between those two. You're going to feel an opening when it's coming from your heart, and you're going to feel a
Mhm.
kind of a closing or a
Moving in.
constriction when it comes from your ego mind. And so that's where some of your discernment may come in. And when I use the word discernment, I like to encourage people, eliminate all the judgment and just simply feel what it is. Just kind of experience it for what it is without judgment, just
Mhm.
observe, just witness. If you can do that, then you can start to feel the difference between fear and love. And you can start saying, oh yeah, this is coming from my heart. Therefore, it's something that I'm more inclined to follow. Whereas if it's coming from my mind, I better pay attention and decide, is this really true or not? So
Right. Yeah, and that's the heart test that I was mentioning. It's very similar to what you just said. I love when things just melt like that so beautifully. If you are wondering if your intuition is correct, or if the um whatever your download is, if it's really in your highest good, or if it's coming from spirit, or a divine source versus your ego, just ask your heart. And as David mentioned, if your heart expands, if it feels more open, it's loving, it's comfortable, then that's a yes. That's your body, that's your heart saying yes. If it shuts down, if it closes in, if in my case, I get chills. It's different for everybody, but I literally feel like I want to protect my heart. That's a no, but be very careful about the way you ask your question, because your body is going to give you the answer to your question. It's going, or your gut instinct, whichever it is, it's going to answer your question. So short questions,
right.
is this class right for me? Period. Then is this class right for me in 2023? There you want to be, kind of dialing down short things so your heart can give you the truth. and it
Right.
is 100% accurate. I have tested this for over 10 years.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Carolyn, I'm going to take a rapid detour here. I notice all these books behind you, and it just reminds me. I know that you have contributed to some of the books on the wellness universe, but I know you've also written your own book
Yes.
about this sacred living stuff. Do you want to just share a little bit about that, please?
Yes, I'd love to have it right here. So my book, I am the lead author in a book called Inspired Living. There are 25 stories of people and their own personal hero's journey. How did they overcome whatever it was to really step into their own power? Sometimes it's the power of forgiveness. It's the power of loss of a child. Um, there's so many different stories that people have. And the beautiful thing about my book, just like the ones that we did for the Wellness Universe, because I'm in a couple of the ones with you too, David, is they all have tools at the end. They all give something for you to experience and you to create your own toolbox and become stronger with so many different options.
Yeah, that's great. I've been thinking about doing a lead author thing on another book. Maybe
Mm,
I'll share with you later. I'm not going to put that into this recording because it's something that I'm just thinking about right now.
yeah.
And but I guess it is out there. I'm thinking of writing a book. There you go. How's that?
That sounds great. And I'm thinking about writing my own. So, with your
Right.
permission, I'm going to put a link to my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Drop it into the chat there so people
There
can
you
see
go.
that. And that's
Thank
right,
you.
available on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, it
right.
is.
Okay. So let's get more into this whole intuition thing and talk about. All right. So one of the things that you wrote up in your talking points was this idea of the main ways of receiving intuitive information.
Yes.
I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and let's just go through each of those in some detail so people can understand how intuition might work for them.
And the thing that's beautiful about this is people start saying, oh, I do that, or I know that, once they're explained to them. So the first way, and these are not in any particular order, they're just the way that my brain remembers them. So just
Okay.
know that everybody has all of these. There's four main ways of receiving information, and I'm going to talk about a bonus way too. So the first way is clairvoyance. It's anything that you see. Now, that might be with your eyes, like you might notice butterflies for some reason. So, why are butterflies coming to you? You can look up the spiritual meaning of butterflies and get a message, an intuitive message. A lot of times people will see feathers. Feathers are often a sign from a deceased loved one or from your angel guides that they are with you, that they're supporting you. So if you're struggling a little bit, you may receive a feather as a token of confirmation that you're being supported. The other way we see things with our eyes, this clairvoyance, is numbers. You'll see repeating numbers, or you'll just see a number, or you'll be looking for an answer. When I was first doing this work, I mentioned before we got on camera that I own a dog walking business, and I have a rate sheet. It's very cut and dried. But I had this one client who came and had 8 animals. Now, you can't use a rate sheet when you've got that many lives to protect. So I was asking my guides, what do I charge? What's fair to the client? What's fair to me? And I asked to be clear and to be repetitive, because remember, logic here. I like to know, validate things. So I'm driving in my car pulls in front of me, license plate's got a 33 in it. I pass exit 33. This massive truck drives by me with a huge 33 in it, and there's this billboard off on the side, 33. I'm like, cool, thank you. Easy way to receive using my eyes. That's clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is
So
also,
hang on before you go any further.
yeah.
You talked about vision, seeing things. What about inner vision, like when I'm maybe asleep. Or is that part of clairvoyance as well?
Absolutely. And that's where I was going next. I love
Oh,
it when
okay.
you read my mind. No, that's good. That's good. Your dreams are clairvoyance. Whether you remember the details or not, whether you, even if you kind of like you it feels like you're reading through your dreams, it's still you're seeing images, you've got colors, and that's definitely clairvoyance. That inner vision, a lot of times people will see something out of the corner of their eye, or they may see auras, or they, I have developed my abilities now. So I like have a movie screen that's about a foot or two in front of me where I see images move across when I'm working with clients with what do I need to support them. So that's all different versions. People who see deceased loved ones, people who see any kind of spirit energy, that is all in the category of clairvoyance. It's anything you see, whether it's with your inner eye or your physical eyes.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, great question. And the second way is clairaudience. Now, that is anything you hear. So it's going to be kind of the same type of thing. It's anything you hear physically. You may hear a bunch of people talking about going on a vacation. Maybe your guides are trying to tell you need to go on vacation. Or there could be, you hear the same song over and over again on the radio. So it may be the refrain, or it could be that the refrain is catching your interest. So you look up all the lyrics and there's a message for you in there. A real quick story about a real life thing with that is I was actually writing a series on intuition for the Wellness Universe blog. And I was stuck on what I was going to do because I didn't want it to be too typical. And I kept hearing the song Dreamweaver in my mind, and it was making me crazy because I wasn't paying attention, actually.
They call that an earworm.
Yes. So I'm not paying attention to this song that is stuck in my head and will not go away. And I'm stressing over what I'm going to write for this blog. So finally, I'm pacing because that moves energy. It helps me release. And all of a sudden, I'm like, dreams, Dreamweaver. I get it. Thank you. So I wrote the blog about dreams. It was really, really easy, and I stopped hearing the song. So, it's just, your guides, your intuition, spirit, whatever terminology works for you, they are going to be relentless until until you get it.
Hey, you asked for it. Now pay attention.
Hey there, lady.
Right.
Yeah. And so, it's anything you hear. You may hear whispering. You may hear whispering in your ear. It might be spirit. My dad was a contractor. And so he reminds me every day. And he also used to email me before he passed and tell me, don't forget to change the clocks. So twice a year, I hear this voice over my right shoulder. Don't forget to change the clocks, Carolyn. And it's his voice. So I know, and it's outside of me. One of the things you were talking about with validating is, how do you know it's not a voice? You're not making up that voice. And so a real simple way to test that is to do math or do taxes, do something that requires analytical stuff. And where do you feel that energy in your brain? Now, for me, I feel it right here. It's very present. And then listen to a meditation. And where do you feel the energy in your brain? For me, it's right back here. And now it's not the same place for everybody, but just practice that a couple of times. And then you're going to recognize the difference. So when you're in your head and you're analyzing and you're thinking things through, or maybe you're thinking it would be a really good idea to do something, so you're trying to convince yourself, that energy is going to be here. But when it's coming from my dad, when it's coming from a deceased loved one, when it's coming from my angel guides, it's back here. And it's just such an easy way for me to know the truth.
It's interesting that you talk about this. Maybe other people can relate to this. How often have you ever had one of these imaginary conversations going on in your head, And in fact, I can speak for myself. I'm sure other people have done this too. Sometimes the words actually come out of my mouth as I'm having this conversation, and it's all happening automatically. I'm not even really noticing this until I do notice it, and I say, "Oh my God, I'm talking out loud. I'm talking to myself here." But sometimes, so I often assumed that every one of those little conversations that I had was just me making some stuff up. And I was also under the illusion or belief at the time that it was all coming from my ego mind. In around 2003 or 4, somewhere in that time frame, I can't remember, the quality of these conversations shifted. And it was somewhat one-sided. I thought, I'm still making this up, but the information that was coming to me seemed much more important, wisdom, like real wisdom. And I said, okay, great, thanks. It took me like almost 20 years of having those periodic conversations before I finally said, all right, I'm going to start recording these. And so now what happens is I'll sit down during meditation, and if the voice happens to show up, I'll just try and capture what I'm understanding and just record it in the best way I can. And some of the stuff that I'm getting is, it's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's channeling. So what you're doing is you are clearing the energy out of your body to allow through a spirit source. And it's discernment. Back to that. You're choosing the loving sensation and allowing it to speak through you. That's what Esther Hicks does. There's a lot of people who channel specific energies. I channel archangels, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. It's usually when I'm leading a sermon. I'm a minister also, so I'll be, doing something, and I'll feel this sensation, and I have a choice. I have a choice to allow that voice to speak or not. And a loving spirit, a loving channel of information will honor that. If you feel any pushing, then it's not going to be necessarily a loving spirit. It may be something else, and you're just setting a boundary of only allowing the loving spirits to move through you. So yeah, it's I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, there's a different tenor to my voice. There's a different cadence to it also.
Yeah.
Like and I use words sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what that word means. I need to go back and look it up. So it's a wonderful feeling to be able to do that. And I'm not sure exactly which Claire that would fit into, because you're kind of receiving the information.
Right. It's a kind of download, but it feels like, since I'm hearing it, for me, it comes through as sounds. There appears to be some kind of a voice in there, but it's a very deep and hard to describe voice. And I just simply repeat what I hear. And sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes I have to. I might be filtering it in some way to reduce the meaning or something, and I have to go through it and say, all right, what exactly was I being told here?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the way people receive those downloads or those channeled messages differently. Like, you hear it and repeat it. It's like straight through me. So
yeah, I think that's probably more accurate. It's coming through, but I'm hearing something, and then I'm just letting my voice say whatever it says. And so it feels like there's a translation happening, but it's almost instantaneous. That's the best I can describe.
And it's so personal for everyone else. It's just recognizing that this is a loving energy that's here to support you and humanity with the message that they have to offer. And what a gift to be able to receive that.
Right. Okay, enough about that. I want to keep going with what you were talking about. Thank you for that little diversion.
You're welcome. I love diversions. So clairvoyance, it truly is anything you hear, and it's going to be that Inner voice, outer voice. We
That would
talked
be
about
clairaudience, right?
clairaudience. Thank you. I do that regularly. Thank you for catching that. Yes, clairaudience. And we talked about that little tip so that you can kind of discern if it's coming from love or from logic.
Right.
The third way of receiving intuitive guidance is called clairsentience. And that is anything that you sense. I imagine it's like having an antenna or, a cat or a dog with their whiskers. They're kind of sensing out into the world. I sense information on my skin. Our skin is our largest organ. So we've got all of these abilities to receive information. And, it may be that you sense something in your body. It could be, it's highly associated with empathy. So like if you walk in and the person that you're talking to has a headache and all of a sudden your head starts hurting and you were feeling fine before, you want to just ask, is this mine, or are you sensing somebody else, so that you can allow them to have their own journey and their own energy. I mean, you might want to help them if you can, but you don't want to take it on. And that's one of the risks in being highly clairsentient is you could absorb, you can be a sponge for other people's energy. That is one of my gifts, and one of the challenges that I had with my ex-husband is that I was a sponge. I was taking on everything. So I was easily manipulated because it wasn't all my energy in my body. So, just again, be aware of things and learn to set boundaries. Clairsentience is a really good tool to setting what's yours and what's not, and how to set a boundary. So that's a really good thing. You can also sense energy in a room. Like if you've ever walked into a room and just said, oh, it feels really heavy in here, or it's uncomfortable. That's your clairsentient. It's those little feelers going in and saying something's not right here. Maybe they had an argument or whatever. Or you meet somebody for the first time and you immediately think, oh, after shaking their hand, you want to go wash your hand. There's just like, ugh, something's not right. That's your body telling you, giving you information. Or you meet somebody and you feel like you've known them forever. You probably have. It's your clairsentience saying, you've got history. There's an energetic connection that's not on the surface. So that's what clairsentience is.
And, I've had some of those experiences that you talked about, going into a room and not feeling comfortable. And I always just attributed it to the fact that I'm surprisingly or not, I'm an introvert. It doesn't mean I don't like being out in front. It doesn't mean I don't like getting up on stage, speaking in public, or any of that stuff. Introversion just means the way I recharge is in quiet and solitude. And I enjoy that quiet solitude space. I enjoy socializing too. So I always just attributed it to the fact that I'm an introvert. And I just said, okay, this is too many people. I just want to go home. So maybe there's something else going on there that I haven't really paid attention to.
Yeah, and it's awareness, and all of these tools, all of these ways that you can receive information, it's just information. That's really all it is. And I invite people to not judge it, not filter it, not put it in categories, just gather it. Be curious, be like that little kid who is excited about every rock they see, or the little dandelion, so all of this information that you get to gather, be really curious about it. If you don't journal, I highly recommend that you get a book. I have a number of, they're all over there, but they're those composition journals, and I like to get them with the different colored covers. So I do different activities in different colored books, and I track that information that comes, because again, analytical and logical, I can track and I can build proof when I get all these messages and put the pieces together, and there is a result. So it's actually a lot of fun to do things like that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, great. Thank you.
You are welcome. And so the fourth typical way of receiving information is called claircognizance. Now that's
Inner
also,
knowing.
what's that?
Inner knowing.
Inner knowing or your gut knowing. And it is your gut instinct. So you just know what you know, what you know. Nobody can convince you that you're wrong, and you have no proof, but you know it's the truth.
Right.
And it's one of the hardest ones because it comes on like that. It's like that light bulb thing where you're like, whoa, I know this. I don't know how I know this. I can't prove anything. But it's valid. And again, having that journal where you write down those inspiring thoughts, it's really helpful because you can go back and you prove yourself right with that data. You know, when I was going through my divorce and buying a house for me and my kids, I had looked at a lot of different houses and I never felt like home in them. And when I walked into the foyer of the house that we ended up living in, I knew I was home. I felt, you know, it was like this sense of literally coming home. And my
Right.
gut went, oh, everything relaxed for me. That's claircognizance. That's that knowing. And I'm grateful because I had experienced a lot of other homes. So I knew the difference. You know, I had that information that I could sense it, but it really felt different to me. And I know feeling is the clairsentience. So they were both kind of doing their thing with me in that moment.
Right.
And I want to expand on that for just a little bit. I don't ever suggest you just follow that when you're first getting started. You know, I like to do trust and verify, you know, so I still negotiated the price of the house. I still checked out the school system. I still went and met some of the neighbors. You know, I did all of those logical things to validate that the house was also logically good for me. But I knew in my gut and in my heart that it was going to be a good home for my children and I. So both sides of us, right? We have both capabilities.
Well, I honor you for having the wherewithal to pause, do the trust and verify piece, and let the logical aspect come into play. I have not been so disciplined in my life, I have to admit. There have been times and choices that I've made that were strictly gut based. And sometimes the consequences were less than ideal. Not because it was the wrong choice, but because I didn't really prepare myself for the choice. I believe, and I'm going to say that this is a true statement for everyone. Everything that you do in your life is somehow guided. It's part of the process of helping you to get to that place of knowing the truth of who you really are. Sometimes you have to step in the mud or maybe even sink into quicksand before you realize that it's time to make a shift. So we have to make the mistakes in order to make the movements forward. And every mistake is actually a gift. It's like a pebble on the road, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's really the way it is. So one thing I tell people is, yeah, maybe that decision didn't work out for you. Maybe it didn't produce the outcomes that you were expecting. Maybe you have some judgments about yourself. But what I'm going to ask you to do is release those judgments right now. Just look at what the decision did bring for you. And now look where you can go next.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you said there was a bonus.
There is, but before we go to the bonus, I just want to show this because this is one of my exact same topic that you were talking about.
Oh.
So this is a tower, and let me get it so you can probably see the layers here. And I just say that it's we get to make the same decision or the same choice from a higher perspective. We've learned, we've experienced, and we just keep moving our energy up this tower of life. And how awesome is that we get to make the same choice or maybe a similar choice with more information.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the fifth way is what I call clair being. And it's all about being in your body. It's about being present. It is about being open to receive. It's not pushing our energy out into the world. It's allowing the world to give us information that we can then use those four clear senses to figure out what is in your highest good. What's your next right step? And the best way to receive that is truly being present, being in your body, allowing, those 3 deep breaths that sometimes we forget to take, so that, we can really sense, that energy on your skin when you walk into something, or what does that mean when I just felt this in my gut, or, I don't know exactly how to translate what I heard, or I'm not sure what I saw. But when you breathe and when you allow your body to guide you, that's being present, and that's clear being.
Beautiful. Now, you just said something that tweaked my hearing, and I'm going to ask you to explain it. You mentioned 3D breathing. I don't think I've heard that term before.
3 deep breathing. So that's, I might have been talking fast and not said something.
So 3 deep?
So
Okay.
3 deep breaths. You want to take in through your nose, out through your mouth, 3 breaths, so that you center your energy.
Got it. Now I see what you said. Okay.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
I'm going to have to think about that, because I don't think I've ever said 3D breathing. I bet there's a message in there.
Well, you might have said 3 deep breaths or something. I thought what I heard was 3D breathing. And I thought, what the hell is that? I need to find out. So,
I'm going to go meditate on that.
yeah, good. All right. So now we have learned about these 5 different ways of being available, shall we say, for whatever wisdom and knowledge and truth is available to us. Now, let's talk about the main topic here, which is empowered decisions. Obviously, a part of the empowerment is getting the information. So let's take it to the next level.
Yes. So when you are centered, when you understand the messages that are coming through, when you can feel the truth in your heart, then you have the information to make a good decision, to make an empowered decision. A lot of times people can get stuck in things like analysis paralysis, right? You're in your mind, you're thinking it out, you've made a million spreadsheets, you've called all your friends, you listed the pros and cons, but there's no information coming from your body. You're all in your head, so you're not really making an empowered decision. Now you're making a decision, but it often is made out of fear when you're in that energy.
Right, exactly.
Another pitfall of not doing empowered decisions is not making a choice. You're making a choice by not making a choice. When you get into that freeze energy, you're missing opportunities because you're not trusting what you're receiving in your body. You're in it's part of that analysis paralysis. It's all related, but you're in that, what if I'm wrong?
Right.
Instead of, if I make a mistake, I get to learn from it and up level my energy. There's this fear. And oftentimes people have gotten really hurt when they made a mistake. So there's a fear of being wrong, or really big consequences of being wrong. And so they get stuck in that energy of no choice is better than a choice. Because that way I don't have to take responsibility for it, right? I didn't choose that. It just happened.
Well, now that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Ultimately, it all boils down to fear, as you said, I think. That's the reason we don't make choices. We're afraid of the consequences. We're afraid of the unknown. We don't know really what's going to happen. Not in our ego minds. We don't know. And so we have this fear, and as you said, we understand on a deep level, well, if I don't make this choice, then I don't have to take responsibility for it, which implies that people know deep down inside that they must take responsibility for every choice they make.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be worried about what the consequences would be. But you
Right.
see, this is, again, it's coming back to this fear-based thinking, and it's being driven by the ego mind. The ego mind says, don't do that. Remember last time that happened, you got such and such and such, and these people said those things and blah, 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 and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
You want to just let your ego mind have its moment. Say, well, thank you so much for your perspective. I really do appreciate that you're looking out for my best interests, but I got this.
Yeah.
I'm an adult now. I'm a big boy or a big girl, and I know how to make this decision. So thank you. You can back off now and stay there and, warn me if there's some real danger. But for
Right.
now, I'm going to make this choice from my heart.
Yes, absolutely. And, another way that kind of we get distracted and we don't do empowered decision making is when we're reaching outside of ourselves. That I had mentioned before, I used to call people and say, what do you think I should do? I followed the family's guidance on going to an engineering school instead of my heart, and going into, I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to help people. And here I am all those years later helping people with an engineering degree. Yay. But it's that outside validation, and it comes in so many different ways. It's taking, I'm never good enough until I take that next certification. That's part of it. Or let me pull another Oracle card. I love Oracle cards. I've got like 75 decks. I love the information that comes through them. But you pull one and you get the information using all of your senses, and you make a decision. You don't say, well, let me pull a second one just in case, or a third one, or a
That's right.
fourth
Yeah.
one,
You're second
right?
guessing and third guessing yourself. Yep.
Right? Right?
Yep.
And so many people do that. And so you're making a decision again, but it's not an empowered decision. So the
Yep.
empowered decision is when you notice, and it may be that you need to hear yourself process. I am an auditory learner, so I have a couple of friends that I will call and speak and they hold space for me. They don't give feedback. They hold space for me to speak. Or sometimes I just talk to my dog, but I speak out loud. And as I do that, I get more and more information because I am hearing as well as thinking, and I'm sensing what's going on in my body. So I've got the information. And then I drop into my heart. I take those breaths and I feel very centered. And is my heart feeling good about this choice? Or is there a little niggly in there that maybe I need to tweak the choice a tiny little bit? Being really careful about what you're asking.
Right.
And that's the empowered decision. And when you get to that point, the third piece is taking the action. There are so many people in the world who know what is right for them. They're very clear and confident that they have received divine guidance or intuitive information, but they hold it to themselves. They don't bring it out into the world. And that fear, right? It goes back to that fear of, I know this. I'm being guided to teach this class, to write this book, to connect to this person, to move someplace, whatever it is, but they don't actually do it. And to be truly empowered in your decision making, it takes courage to take that step. And I invite you to take a small one, take one step at a time. In COVID, I was guided. I woke up and I heard my angels' voices early in the morning, and they said, you're moving to North Carolina and you're going to be there by Thanksgiving. I'm like, pandemic, can we talk about this, please? And I heard again, you're moving to North Carolina. I was living in Massachusetts, by the way. You're moving to North Carolina and you're going to be there by Thanksgiving. And so I took those 3 deep breaths and I just said, okay, will you make it easy, please? And I started taking the steps. What are the steps? Okay, I need a place to live in North Carolina. I need to get out of where I am now. I need, step by step. What's the first right thing for me to do? It's not like I packed up everything I owned and moved to North Carolina. I step by step followed the guidance that my guides gave me because it's empowered. It made me feel good. It made the whole process so easy. It was really amazing. And, I moved in December of 2020. It was kind of a crazy time to be doing anything. So, but it
Well,
was
so now
right.
let me ask you now that you're there,
Yeah.
and now you have the opportunity to kind of look back on this whole journey. Um, what's the real gift that you got out of that move that you wouldn't have had if you had stayed in Massachusetts?
I came home. I came home.
So,
I live in the western part of North Carolina. I live in Asheville, so there's a lot of energy vortexes here. The mountains are here. The growing season is longer. I'm a gardener, so I have a very deep connection with plants and animals. And I literally came home. I felt the energy shift when I was coming down to look at homes in October of 2020. When I crossed the line from Tennessee into North Carolina, I felt in my heart that I had come home. Very similar to when I walked into that house that my kids and I lived in for 20 years. Not quite
beautiful.
20 years, but a long time. I
So in other
felt.
words, you've received plenty of spiritual and energetic confirmation about this
Mhm.
decision
Yes.
uh, after the fact that you may not have had while you were in the process of moving.
Correct. And I also realized that, I don't need to be as involved in my dog walking business. My dog walking business is in Massachusetts. I was very involved because I was there and it was easy. Now I'm 1,000 miles away. If somebody calls out sick, I need to have a different alternative because it's not going to be me getting in the car to go fill in.
Right.
Right? So
Exactly.
it's allowed me to raise up the vibration of my business to a different level. And to empower my employees to take more responsibility, which means I get to pay them more. It's like this beautiful synergy of people up leveling their own skills to the level that they want to, and I get to compensate them for that, and it takes it off of me. One of the things of being an entrepreneur, and I know you know this, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, sometimes we feel like it's all on our shoulders. And
Right.
the gift for me moving that far away, one of the gifts was it's not all on my shoulders. All I needed to do was get myself out of the way. And that was one of the biggest gifts for me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that your involvement with the Wellness Universe and all these other things that you've been doing has kind of increased as a result of your movement as well.
Mhm.
So that's a blessing for all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if I would have felt like I had the time, ego, the time when I was so immersed in the details of something I didn't need to be immersed in, to step
Mhm.
into being a partner of the Wellness Universe, to do more teaching in the classes, to do the talk show that I'm doing on Inspired Living, through the Wellness Universe. I'm not I know that my guides would have gotten me there, but I don't think it would have been as easy for me to get me there. I would have had
Right.
more resistance to it.
Yeah.
So, it's beautiful. And another little piece of this is my daughter and I are highly connected. She lives in New Hampshire, and our relationship has changed and up leveled to more of a partnership relationship since I've moved because she got to be more independent. Mom wasn't there to support her as much. And and it was both of us, right? She asked, I gave. I wanted to give. But this separation allowed both of us to mature our relationship in a way that I don't think it would have been as easy for it to happen if I was 30 minutes away like I was.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. So, Carolyn, we've talked about a lot of stuff here on, intuition and empowered decisions and traps to avoid, and I think you called it the heart verification
The
method or
heart
something.
verification. Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of great detail here. I hope that people will come back and watch the recording and get even more out of it. But I'm just wondering, as we begin to wrap up now, is there any final words that you'd like to share with people about this topic, about intuition? What final wisdom would you like to share?
I would like to really invite everyone to follow your heart. No matter where it takes you, it may be it's taking you out of a bad job, it's taking you out of a bad relationship, it's taking you into meeting someone who doesn't fit your typical whatever it is. Follow your heart, because it doesn't matter what the surface looks like. We can kind of fool ourselves with, again, fear. Somebody's different, or they don't have the same beliefs that I do, but maybe it doesn't matter. If God and the spirit wants you to have this job because you need to learn something or meet someone, trust it. And remember, nothing is forever. I think that's the most important piece that I received out of everything is just because I made one choice doesn't mean I have to stay with it forever.
That's it,
I
right?
I mean, I did not get married intending to leave, but it came to the point where it was the healthiest thing for me and for him and for our kids. I had to make a different choice for a period of time. Jobs. I've had to leave jobs in order to allow somebody else to rise up in the position that I was in, and for me to step into something bigger. Starting my business, scary. Starting a business is really scary.
It
But
is.
it
Yep.
it was the right thing for me to do. So not looking at it as it's forever. It might be, but
Well, yeah, I think that, well, you said something that's very important, I think. And every decision is made in this moment based on the best information that you have at this time.
yeah,
One moment from now, everything might change and you might be put in a position where you need to make a new decision. So
yeah,
don't be afraid to continually be making empowered decisions. That's the whole point of life,
right,
right?
right. Yeah, absolutely. And nothing, I go back to, I don't know where this originated, but I just love the energy of it. Things happen for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And if we cannot try and force everything into lifetime, then life is so much simpler. A relationship is created for a time frame. You need to learn something. You do have this lifetime connection with people, places, things.
Right.
And it's beautiful when we allow that ebb and flow. It's when we become rigid, which I think is fear-based, like you mentioned before, we miss opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for being here. It's been just a real pleasure sharing space with you and talking about this very important topic. And I know I'm going to have you back on again sometime in the reasonably near future.
I would love that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, remember everyone, you have continual access to a source of truth and wisdom that can lead you unerringly in the right direction for your life. You can tap into this amazing source anytime you want to, knowing that it will always provide the answers you need. So practice some of the skills and tools that Carolyn and I have shared here today and sharpen up your intuition so it serves you in every moment. I want to thank you for watching today's program, whether you were here on the live session or if you're watching the recording. And I also want to remind you that you can catch the recordings of this and every other episode of my show on my website at lifemasterytv.com. Now, the last thing I'd like to do, as always, as I close out, is I want to remind you to practice the life mastery mantra every single day. It goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, my name is David McLeod, your Life Mastery Coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. See you again next time on Life Mastery TV. Bye-bye for now.